What's up, everyone? We are set for an exciting and opportunity-filled week because we are about to see a lot of movement. As we can see on the chart right now, the S&P 500 had quite the day today, but it was to the downside. And while that isn't necessarily a great thing to hear at first, the good thing is that we're finally starting to see momentum come back into the markets, and that means opportunity is here. So make sure to stick with us to the end of today's video to see what the big opportunity is this week. And at the end of today's video, we have multiple $1 million trades that you will not want to miss. The first trade is for $1 million. The second trade is for $4.7 million. Definitely stick with us, but let's get right into today's video.
Yeah, it was insane today, Mike. The S&P 500 really started the day off in a bad way. We gapped down from futures last night, and it got even worse throughout the day as the SPY ran all the way back down towards that 395 support, which, as we know, over the past couple weeks has been a pretty big level. So definitely watch 395. Who knows? We might get a little bit of a bounce back up off of here, kind of like what's going on in after hours. But I'm really going to keep my eyes on the SPY, Mike, obviously, like we always do. It had a lot of good momentum to the downside, and I think that there was a lot of opportunity across the market today, pretty much to the downside. You know, whether you look at a lot of tech stocks like NVIDIA or even oil stocks, if we look on the heat map here, these stocks were down a lot too, down 3% with Exxon, 2.92% with Chevron there. So those stocks took a hit. Big tech took a hit. It was just a very bloody day overall, but like you said, Mike, this is bringing some good opportunities in. Like we saw today, SPY broke below 398, which was a pretty big support. So that was a pretty big opportunity there in the middle of the day. And even the support bounce at 395 might be pretty big to watch. You know, if we move under that tomorrow, it might make for another good trade.
Exactly. So the main thing to know is that basically for the past 2 weeks, the stock market has been moving in like very tiny ways, and when this happens, it's extremely hard to trade because whether you think stocks will go up or down, basically everyone loses in this situation for the short term. But now we're finally seeing moves that actually have some like momentum and power behind them. Whether those moves are to the upside or the downside doesn't really matter too much to short-term traders as long as the moves are actually like moving, if it makes sense. Like as long as we're seeing like real powerful moves, that's when the opportunity comes into play. And if we go back to that heat map, Tom, you know, when you have days where basically everything is red, that is an awesome opportunity for short-term bearish plays because basically anything you bet against, for the most part, not only does it fall, which is a good thing for, you know, if you're buying puts, but it also tends to fall easier when all stocks are falling. So, you know, it's definitely been a bloody day, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for the short term.
Yeah, definitely not. And you can see like Microsoft, one of the market leading stocks, had a terrible day, down 2.32%. That you would say maybe that's not too bad of a day, but their average percent fall is 1.67%. So it definitely beat by a little bit there. We even saw some airlines and stocks like Boeing really fall off the table. I noticed, Mike, even one of our favorites, DraftKings, was down 4%. It's not looking too good today. Meta was down a little bit. So we saw a lot of these big tech and growth stocks fall. I will say, though, some of the kings of the market still prevailed. You know, Amazon ended up holding. They ended up still closing green even after having a bit of a rough move there. And Walmart actually closed up a lot higher, too. Man, Walmart on the daily chart is just getting insane at this point.
Good stuff. So we saw some nice momentum, especially towards the end of the day today. But looking throughout the rest of the week, what do we have to look forward to and what's on the schedule?
Yeah, there's actually some pretty big stuff here. So Powell is actually speaking Wednesday at 1:30 p.m., guys. It's not an FOMC event, but he will be speaking about the economy. So watch for that at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. But even before that, Wednesday morning at 8:30, 1 hour before the market opens, it looks like we're going to get some GDP growth rate data coming out. So definitely watch for that and some employment change numbers. So I know a lot of people like to watch that GDP growth rate, Mike. So hopefully that comes in, you know, close to the consensus and the forecast, so we don't get surprised or anything like that. And then we do still have some pretty big earnings. And I will say this morning, PDD did very well and pushed up a lot of China stocks, even though we've been seeing that bad news come out of China with protests. So they had some good earnings today. Tomorrow we have CrowdStrike, Snowflake, and Salesforce Wednesday. So still a long day, a long week ahead of us for earnings.
You know it. So the main thing to know for this week is we have important earnings, as we can see on the chart right now. And then on Wednesday, especially, that will be an important day. Just like Tom said, we have GDP data, unemployment data, and we have the chairman of the Federal Reserve set to speak. Whenever the chairman of the Federal Reserve speaks, aka Jerome Powell, it is definitely important to listen, as he is one of the most powerful people, I would say, in the world, and especially when it comes to the economy. He plays a huge role. So definitely keep that in mind. But Tom, looking more at the market overall, as basically all stocks were red today, one group of stocks were green, and it's probably not the group of stocks that you would guess originally, and that is the China stocks. So basically over the past couple days and weeks, there's been a lot of bad news coming out of China, whether it be COVID cases skyrocketing and protests, and Apple is having some problems at their production facilities. Just a lot of bad news. Yet on a day like today, China stocks were basically the only stocks green.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. BABA ended up 0.5%. You would say maybe that's not too much, but whenever you look at the chart, ever since open, it had that really explosive move, and it had a pretty good close today. It didn't fall down too much, and kind of looks like one of those nice like stair step patterns back to the upside. Like we said before, PDD had really good earnings, was up 12.6%. You can see they actually have third quarter revenue up 65% from a year ago to $4.99 billion, outpacing the estimate of $4.31 billion. But a 65% revenue increase year over year is just insane. So good job for PDD. I'm glad that they flew up today. It caused a lot of these China stocks, in my opinion, to fly up there. But another thing with China, like you mentioned, Mike, was Apple. It was actually a pretty bad piece of news. They ended up gapping down this morning pretty bad. And apparently some of these, it looks like some of these, I guess like it says like the unrest at the factory, I guess you could say like the protest at this exact factory, looks like it could affect almost like 6 million iPhone Pro models in production. So I don't know, Mike, you do the math, 6 million times 1,000. Sounds like a lot of money to me.
Yeah, so the main thing to know is that Apple's having some problems at one of their facilities, and they will not be able to produce as many iPhones as they originally were expecting. But, just like we were saying a minute ago, Tom, there's just been a lot of problems coming out of China lately. So, I don't know, it's weird, but at the same time, China stocks themselves are actually doing just fine, like PDD. NIO was okay today. Alibaba, Baidu, it's like you name it, and they're actually holding up. So it's not a bad thing. And even if you look at KWEB, which is the China ETF, that was up 4% today.
Yeah, Queb was amazing. One of the better movers, actually, in my opinion, probably even better than the PDD move, considering PDD was mainly all pre-market. You can see, at least with Queb, you had some chance here at open, and you could have maybe caught some of that momentum, but overall, pretty good movement, Mike. I'm glad to see the China stocks up, but I will say, take some caution with these guys. I've been seeing a lot of crazy news with the protests and stuff like that, and who knows, they could end up getting crazy, Mike. I've seen some pretty insane videos of the police, fighting people and stuff like that. I know that stuff goes on pretty commonly, especially over the past couple of years with stuff like this, but it's definitely not good to see.
Alrighty, so let's get into some good plays for the week. One of my top stocks for this week is XOM, ExxonMobil. Basically, this one is actually to the downside, though. All right, so there's a pretty big resistance right around 115 for ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil is looking a little bit weak right now, and it definitely has potential to sell off. It's been channeling for like the past 3 or 4 weeks or so. It has really struggled to break above resistance. Crude oil prices have been falling. Other energy stocks are falling. ExxonMobil is a little bit overbought as well. So I can definitely see ExxonMobil falling down a little bit. And it is one of the stocks I'll be watching the closest to the downside for this week.
Yeah, definitely. Look at how overextended that looks on the daily chart. I'm with you, Mike. I feel like these stocks could definitely fall down a little bit as well. So keep these oil plays on the radar. It should be pretty explosive here if we do see like a big break of support or something like that. So definitely watch them. Another one to the downside, Mike, is actually AMD for me. I actually really love AMD, for the longer term, but in the shorter term, I feel like some of these tech stocks have had a pretty nice explosion here. And you can kind of see how AMD is having a very nice double top on the chart. I'm going to go ahead and circle both of these touches up here right around like $78 to $79. So watch for this drop on AMD. I'm seeing a huge support around 72. So if we break below that, I think we might see a bit of like an extension on this sell-off here.
All right, good stuff. The next stock for me is KWEB. I know we were just talking about it. Basically, this is just a bunch of China stocks all in one. While the market itself is pretty weak right now, KWEB is one of the few stocks that are popping up. So it definitely has some relative strength to it. So this one I do have like a bullish leaning towards. I've also been seeing a ton of bullish options flow lately as well. So I will be watching KWEB to the upside. But with that being said, it's very, very important that like the stock is showing decent momentum. So for example, if this stock gaps down by 4% tomorrow, then it's like it probably will not be worth playing. But on the other hand, if this stock is breaking out tomorrow and a bunch of other China stocks are, breaking out and flying up, then of course there would be opportunity in that situation.
Yeah, and sometimes it's pretty quick. You can see today within 15 minutes of market open, this stock exploded. And one key thing that was awesome about it is it gapped up in pre-market trading. So definitely watch for that gap tomorrow. If you see some good momentum, definitely watch it open. I see exactly what you're saying there, Mike. It could definitely be a pretty good trade. And another one to the upside for me is going to be Pfizer. It's pretty hard not to trade this one to the upside. I'm not going to lie, Mike. This one has been seriously flying up a lot lately. It looks pretty explosive. It's one of those stocks that it's pretty correlated to the SPY, but it's also in the healthcare sector. And I know the healthcare sector does a lot of crazy stuff. So I will be watching this. There's a big resistance coming up right around $50 even. So maybe if we could get a nice breakout above 50 tomorrow or over the next few days, I feel like we could see a bit more of a move to the upside. But figured I'd mention them. They're one of those safer stocks. And even like 49.80 seems like a pretty good resistance.
All right, sounds good. Well, Tom, let's get right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. With the first one, we have Alibaba or BABA to the upside.
Yeah, go ahead and make BABA break out. I would say if they could break above 76.40, we could see a pretty nice move up.
All right, then with the next one, we have DAL or Delta Airlines to the downside.
Yeah, unfortunately, this was a pretty bad move down here. Make them break below 33.75. That's a pretty big support there.
And with the last one, we have good old Apple to the downside.
Yeah, of course, to the downside on a day with all these tech stocks dying off here. Whoa, my chart went crazy, guys. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but go ahead and make Apple fall below 143.40. I don't know what went on there.
Sounds good. So we are watching Apple and Delta Airlines for potential day trades to the downside tomorrow, only if they break below the levels Tom listed. And then we are watching Alibaba or BABA for a potential day trade to the upside tomorrow, only if it breaks above the level Tom listed. But it is now time for the multi-million-dollar trades for today. With the first stock, we are looking at DEN. Basically, some hedge fund today put around $1 million into the 85 strike put options that expire on April 21st of 2023. For those of you who don't know, basically some hedge fund is betting over $1 million that this stock will be below $85 by April 21st of 2023, but the lower this stock goes, the more money that the hedge fund will make. So ideally, they would love to see this stock absolutely get destroyed. Basically, this is in the energy industry, and it is somewhat similar to like just other energy and oil stocks right now, you can say. Overall, a lot of energy stocks are overbought, so I can definitely see this one tanking down. So that's very interesting. But at the same time, the other trade might be even crazier. So we are looking at XLE, and today some hedge fund put a total of $4.7 million into a crazy trade. Essentially, it's called a put debit spread. It's a little bit advanced, but I'll break it down simply. Essentially, this hedge fund bought the 90 strike put options for March 17th of 2023, and they shorted the 75 strike put options for March 17th of 2023, and they paid $4.7 million total for this trade. Essentially, the hedge fund wants XLE to get as close as possible to $75 or less in order to achieve a maximum profit for this trade. So in a perfect world, XLE would just tank down to $75 or lower. So clearly we can see some bearish bets with energy stocks. Right now, XLE is basically a bunch of energy stocks all in one. That includes stocks like ExxonMobil, Chevron, and a lot more. So looks like the smart money's betting against energy, Tom.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy to see, especially considering we've been seeing a lot of, I guess you wouldn't say smart money, but like big guys like Warren Buffett with Berkshire and stuff like that, buying into stuff like Oxy and different stocks like that lately. I'm curious if maybe we'll start to see some reports of maybe some profit taking going on with some of these guys like Berkshire and some of these bigger funds too. So I'm curious to see how these play out. But yeah, I am definitely also bearish on some of these energy plays. I will say oil might actually continue a little bit higher. Who knows? But I know that ZOM and a lot of these oil companies might end up falling off, especially in the short term. And I know that there's a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East with OPEC and maybe some production cuts and stuff like that. So keep that stuff on the radar too.
Very true. So like I do like the setup with these put plays with DEN and XLE and ExxonMobil. I do like to see that bullish put activity, but at the same time, I am a little bit on edge given that, just like you said, we've seen some investing legends buy up stakes of ExxonMobil and Oxy and just other stocks in the energy industry. You know what I mean? So that is a risk factor in my opinion. But then again, a lot of these top dog investors were scooping up shares of energy companies like in the beginning of the year or even earlier.
Yeah, exactly. They were in pretty early. And I know even if Berkshire's been buying more like up around the top, we never know. Like they could be selling out right now and we might not know until we get that, report in 3 months. Sometimes I get really surprised at how late that these guys are able to report some of those trades.
Very true. All right, good stuff there. Tom, I am pretty excited for this week, especially given that we're finally starting to see some good momentum. Do you have like any final thoughts or anything you want to share or anything you're looking forward to for the week?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm glad to see the SPY have some momentum. I will say 395 is a pretty big support. I will be watching for tomorrow. If we fall back below there, I'm definitely going to be watching for another push down. Now, to the upside, if we do start breaking maybe back above like 396.50, I will be watching for a possible push back up too, considering that is support. So let's just hopefully see some good momentum either way, Mike. As long as we maybe come back up and retest 399, that would be a pretty successful day. It would just be green again. I know the market seems whack lately. Like look at the past 4 days. Like we've had a crazy recovery from 395 all the way up to 403, all the way back down to 395 now within just like one trading day. So the market's been crazy, but hey, I'm glad there's some momentum and it's definitely been good for the day trades, Mike. Man, some of these trades like the Apple play today was fantastic.
You know it. So if you guys are looking for daily options alerts, check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. Today's bot play was pretty awesome. Basically, it alerted the Apple 145 strike put options at $231 each, and it popped all the way up to $305 each within the same day. Of course, not every single play wins. No software, no strategy has a 100% win rate, but the bot does pretty damn good. Basically, you get options alerts every single day. It does all the hard work for you. Basically, if you want to try it out, check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. You can cancel at any time, and we have a coupon running for your first month. You'll also get access to option swing trades, a private community, a bunch of custom bots you won't find anywhere else, and in the worst case scenario, you can cancel at any time. So definitely check it out. The bot is pretty awesome. Also, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, PK Dog. You've been in the chat for a couple months now and your activity has definitely been increasing. So definitely keep it up. It's awesome to have you in the chat. I'm very excited for the rest of this week. Like I said a couple times now, it's awesome to finally see the momentum starting to kick back into the markets. I have a good feeling that this week will be pretty good and filled with opportunities. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Again, don't forget to check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. The bot is pretty awesome and it's it's definitely worth trying out, at least for a month. Thanks for watching.